Welcome in to another special edition of House of Horns. We're doing this live, Gilbert. I know people are usually listening or watching us on Wednesday nights, but today we decided to do something a little different just because we have the 53-man roster coming up on Tuesday. So we kind of wanted to give you guys, we haven't done a show for this, so we wanted to give you guys a show so that way we can give you guys where we're at on our 53-man projection for the Rams. But my name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. Gilbert, how are you feeling after doing Combas on the B and then having to
Yeah.
turn around and do a House of Horns show?
Yeah, it's a marathon and it's starting to feel like real football is back. And as you know, during the season, we were very busy and we create a lot of content pretty much Monday through Thursday. Monday, we had Lunes Live Compass on the Beat. We're going to have a lot of shows on Tuesday. We have a Combat Compass, which is Combat Sports on Tuesdays. Also, we're going to have the four Compass shows where the Compass get together on Tuesdays. And then Wednesday, we do House of Horns, me and you, Victor. And then yeah, what's up, Bolts for the Chargers show? That's Fernando and Dan Dago's baby, and then we have Gilberto's hours on Thursday. So it's starting to get like feel that way. It's like our preseason finale before the real deal, and we're gonna go pretty much like what 10 days without a show. So get one before the 53-man roster. That way we could maybe do somewhat of a prediction, even though like the Rams started cutting players like over the weekend. So it's good. We're getting a head start on the roster. We'll do a prediction. And then if
Mhm.
you're watching this on Tuesday after the roster gets released, let us know if we did well or we didn't. And I'm sure I bet we're gonna get most of these correct, so we could have a full show early on a Monday night, and then after that we'll get to week one of the NFL season. So I'm ready for this Monday show to end out preseason finally. Because I'm tired of preseason. I'm tired of training camp. I'm tired of
Yes.
overreactions. I'm tired of predicting and guessing. Let's play the damn games.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Ram fans are just as excited to get the season going. We didn't get to see a lot of players in the finale against the Texans. So, let's get right into it. Let's get to actually let's start off with, we got a question here already from let me get to that real quick. And it has to do with AMS, who's one of our regulars during our show last season. It says, "Do you think they move Jones before the first game?" And that goes to our engagement question of the day, Gilbert. And I'll let you go ahead and handle this.
Yeah, it's a interesting scenario that's played out with Ernest Jones. Is he going to get traded? Did he ask for a trade? Did the agent do it and not the player? Or maybe the Rams said, "Hey, we're tired of dealing with you. Go seek a trade. We're done with you." Who knows? But let us know what you're thinking here. And it's not the only two options, but I'll ask the question first. Should the Rams trade or resign Ernest Jones, or option C, which is more likely, just show up, Ernest Jones, just play, earn a contract, play at the final year? Because plug, we're gonna post it eventually on House of Horns, but right now you can watch it on Compass on the Beat, the Lunes live episode, the lengthy episode. Kirk Morrison joined us to talk about the Rams, to talk about Ernest Jones, to discuss. I can't keep saying talk about, to discuss Alaric Jackson being suspended 2 games, the left tackle there. So he gave some good insight there, and the way he broke it down for a little preview, Ernest Jones, just show up, man. You might not have that much leverage. Maybe the agent thinks you do, and he's giving you bad advice. Who knows? It's a very complicated, weird scenario here for Ernest Jones, but he might not be Roquan Smith, but he's a pretty damn good player, and he's very valuable for the Rams. So, hey, I don't think they're going to re-sign him because Leslie has been very open about it, and GMs are usually not very vocal like that. We're like, yeah, we're not going to
Yep.
sign that guy right now, so don't expect that. But I'll be a little surprised if we do a trade because how valuable he is. But it's the 53-man roster show, and we're going to talk about Omar Spites Spites.
Speeds.
It was Spites or Spites? I always forget
It's
because I can see heights and I Spites, whatever. Omar's
Yes.
Spites. I honestly don't even know, but I think you and Kirk have been saying
Number
Spites.
48. Yeah.
That guy Omar is very good. For him
Yes.
to have there, and now you kind of lose some leverage if you're Ernest Jones. But yeah, AMS is asking, do you think they moved Jones before the first game? I'm gonna say no. I think they figure it out. I think both parties need each other. I think Ernest Jones is in a right situation where, hey, you're gonna be the number one guy, at linebacker, go ball out and get another 145 tackles, and then cash in the offseason.
Yeah, and we'll see. I would say that make sure you check out the interview with Kirk Morrison, because he does hint at just but with what he said, he says just go back and look at what the Rams prioritize. They prioritize offense. They don't prioritize defense. So that's kind of something, and he gets into it. I don't want to give too much away, so make sure you check that out. And then before we get into news and notes, we also have our guy who jumped over from
Hey,
our guy Moy here. I can't say it as well as Fernando says it, so I'm not.
ignore Vive
Yeah,
Moy. I can't do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not even gonna try, but it's good to have you on here checking us out. He's a Chargers fan from Canada, but I'm glad he is on here. We're always welcoming other fans to this show. And then AMS is kind of trying to get in a little ahead of himself here, because we have some thoughts here. We'll get into it with our projections. So AMS is asking, if they do move Jones, who would you start in the middle of our defense? And I'll get to that. We'll get to that. We have our projection, and there is a. We'll get into it real quick. Let me just first of all, let's get to Rams news and notes. What's been happening since the Rams faced the Texans on Saturday morning? So Gilbert, we found out that the NFL suspended Alaric Jackson for 2 games. We still don't know why. We know it was for some kind of conduct. Um, I've seen some of the reporters try to ask, and they've been given vague answers. So I'm gonna ask you this: what does this do for the Rams, especially for the first 2 games? This is also something that Kirk Morrison touched on, so another reason to watch that video. But for you here, what does this do, having not having your left tackle the first 2 games?
Yeah, first of all, another weird situation for the Rams, and yeah, like who knows what? Because usually when it's like conduct kind of issues, it's something you did off the field that wasn't good, maybe involving the law, whatever. Who knows? It wasn't a team thing. What you weren't suspended by a team, you were suspended by the league. So that's a little concerning of what happened there. But Sean McVay wants to keep it in house, so eventually we will find out. But that is your left tackle, Alaric Jackson. That is not good news when you're gonna face Aiden Hutchinson and Leo
The
McNeil, the
Cardinals.
interior guy. But yeah, Detroit Lions. But and then eventually, well, the Cardinals don't have too many pass rushers, but Detroit Lions do. They're going to be better. I think DJ Reader might have got hurt. That's so maybe good news for the Rams. But Liam McNeil, they got Marcus Davenport. You got some good linebackers in Detroit. That's a very good front end. If you don't have your left tackle, like what do? You go call Joe Noteboom, who's supposed to be the left tackle before Alaric Jackson took the job away from him. Maybe you go back to that. I think McClendon is another guy they've been trying out, but it's not a good start for the offensive line. I've been saying it's giving me 2022 vibes, and then Jonah Jackson returned. You're starting getting you got Jackson got hurt too, and then he came back, so you started feeling better, and then a suspension for 2 games. It's only 2 games, but you don't want to be behind on the standings if it goes rough for your offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean, at least he gets to heal up, but and I'll get to it in terms of he's been participating in practice here and there. But yeah, you let him heal up, and then you kind of work around it. I think that also means that you keep some extra linemen on the roster now. I think a couple of guys who were probably on the bubble now make the team because of it. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye tomorrow. I doubt they trade or they try to pick someone off the waiver. I think they'll keep the guys that they have. We talked to Adam Grossbar last week, and he told us that that's the kind of the reason why they were cross training some guys, and now it makes sense because they probably knew that Alaric Jackson was going to be suspended, and so they got ahead of it and by starting to do some cross training with some of their linemen. So,
Yeah.
just something to kind of keep an eye on. Uh, to start the show, we had a question about what with that had to do with Ernest Jones, and that's because Ernest Jones, was put on the trade block. Now, I put this at when you read this, this is Rams put linebacker Ernest Jones on the trade block, but there's been a lot of weirdness with this, Gilbert, and it's something that you guys talked about with Kirk Morrison, and whether it was the Ernest Jones's agent who put that out there that he wanted to be traded. Then you had Ernest Jones put a tweet out that he said he never requested a trade, and then today McVay said that he never requested a trade, that they just were asking around whether teams would be interested in trading for him. So one thing that we've known about the Rams is they don't like to be in drama filled situations. And I guess my question to you was, did Ernest Jones and his agent overplay their hand here, thinking that, hey, like I wanna get paid, and you know, did I you guys should try to pay me now because you guys don't have anybody behind me. So what happened here, Gilbert? What do you think happened here?
Yeah, I think they thought they had some leverage, and you should know that the Rams don't operate like that. Like when they just tore down the entire roster last year, and they just said Cooper Cup, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, the rest of you could go home, or you're stuck on a rookie contract. You have no leverage. That kind of tells you how they operate. Okay, like you have to be a bona fide stud or a legend or future Hall of Famer to get that type of commitment from the Rams. They tend to trade players very frequently. They tend to have plan B, plan C, plan D, whatever. So that's just the way Les Snead operates with Sean McVay. They don't really marry people or stay committed to people besides those three players that we've seen in recent memory. Especially if you trade for a player and you give up a couple first round picks and then you give them a contract. Obviously, we saw with Jalen Ramsey, things like that do
Yep.
work, but you got to be Jalen Ramsey too. Like this is no knock on Ernest Jones. I guess I get that you thought maybe you're coming off a good season. It's a good season, not a great season. I like the 145 tackles that you got there. You're a Pro Bowl stump. And I'll say this: people say the Pro Bowl doesn't matter. Who cares? It's stupid. Focus on the All Pros. When it comes to contract negotiations,
Yep.
agents like to flaunt it. GMs like to say, "Oh, well, how many Pro Bowls do you have?" So it matters during contract negotiations. So if Ernest Jones would have made the Pro Bowl, maybe it sounds a little better. Maybe like, okay, you're a Pro Bowler. Okay, we like that on the resume, and we'll give you a little couple money here. But even then, he didn't have that strong of a case. I get that what they had, they thought they had some kind of hand here because you have such a thin group of linebackers where he is by far your best player. He's an important player. You have a young, defense too. I guess they got some age in the secondary, but for the most part, that front is very young. And who's the eraser, the cleaner, the garbage man to pick up the mess there? It's Ernest Jones. So he thought, okay, they need me here. And yes, but then you see Omar Speets, there you go, doing well. And I guess we're not surprised when Leslie said on the broadcast, yeah, he's for sure on the 53-man roster. He doesn't even have to suit up. Oh, by the way, he's also on the game day roster. Like he's that good to us. Maybe they knew in the back of their mind this Ernest Jones thing is getting a little messy. That's why like you mentioned, when they knew Alaric Jackson was going to get suspended, they started cross training, having plan B, plan C. So they already knew this. We shouldn't be too surprised here. But yeah, and then you see Ernest Jones tweeting like, "Oh, I never asked for a trade." Like I don't. I believe him because you have a good situation with the Rams. I know you don't have Raheem Morris anymore, but you know that scheme very well. You've been working with Chris Shula. That is your best opportunity to get paid at the end of the season. Yeah, you try to get one now before your fourth year on the rookie deal. It didn't work out. That's why I keep bringing up Kyron Williams. Like he might try to do that before his fourth year because he is a good player and he has another good year in year three. Maybe you ask, but if you're Kyron Williams and going into year four, you're thinking like that didn't work for Ernest Jones. Maybe I shouldn't try either. So it's just the way the Rams operate. But I'm hoping to work it out because I think both sides need each other a little bit.
Yeah, especially with Kyron Williams when they've drafted your replacement already. I mean, it's kind of hard for you to ask
Yeah.
for a contract extension. But hey, I I don't fault players for doing this. I understand you got to get your money. A player's shelf life is not that long in the NFL. Yeah, you see guys like Brady, but those are quarterback positions, especially with the linebacker. You know how it is with we saw it with Luke Kuechly, who was an All Pro, and he ended up retiring early too as a middle linebacker. So not a lot of I get it. I get where Ernest Jones is coming from, but at the same time, you got to look at the history with the Rams. They don't like to pay for their defense, and so that is kind of unfortunate for both sides here because Ernest Jones deserves to get paid, and then the Rams just don't. This is not the way they do business, and so it's been a weird couple weeks here with the Rams, with where there's been injuries and now this popping up. I know that this is not the way they like to do things, and so I know how frustrating it must be for both parties here. Gilbert, the other thing is the Rams finally moved into their new
Oh
facility in
yeah,
Woodland Hills. They have two full size fields now with natural grass and a quarter field with some chirps installation. So I'm kind of hoping that you make a trip up to Woodland Hills. I'd like to get your review on it to see what the new facility is. I saw Jordan Rodriguez. I saw our guy Gary Kleina, putting up some pictures, some videos of the facility, just the fields and stuff. So it looks pretty cool. Like I said, I passed by there. It's a little small location, but it should work for the players. I think I even retweeted Quinn Lake tweet said that he says the new facility looks really nice. So there you go.
yeah. I wonder how much of it it's already built. I don't. I would be surprised if it's fully complete. But they're making it work. That's good. They keep talking about, oh, it's gonna be ready. It's gonna be ready. And at least it's now usable. That's a good thing. And
Yeah.
but I don't know if I see. Maybe you see more than I have. But if it's fully complete, it's not like the grand opening that the Chargers had with the boat. But it's a work in progress. It sounds like at least they're
Right.
moving in the right direction.
So think of like kind of like like think of when they put in a stadium right next to each other. Like let's say like what happened with
Oh
the
yeah.
Texas Rangers where they had the new stadium, they were building it in the
Hmm.
parking lot. Thinking that way where they're building one part at a time and right now you're getting the fields and all
Yeah.
that. I think there's more they're going to add more to it on the other side. So just think of it like they're in the
Yeah.
like that part of it is done. The main part, which is what they needed, I think you still need to get the offices and all that still needs to be worked
Yeah.
on, and then the
It's
parking lot where the players are going to be parked, all that.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. At least they got to
Yes,
Woodland Hills and they're not homeless right now for that
yes,
weird couple weeks that they were bouncing around from Houston to Oxnard, things like that. But yeah, good for them. And yeah, maybe eventually I'll make it out there. Not sure how my regular season is going to be looking during the season, but I do want to make it out there soon.
yeah. It'll I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that new facility there, and you can give us your reaction to it. All right, last thing, Gilbert, from Round News and Notes here. Alaric Jackson, Puka Nakua, Jonah Jackson all took part in individual drills. Ronnie
Oh,
Rivers did not practice, so that's kind of a concern there. But in terms of good news, Darius Williams, Puka, and Jonah Jackson are all expected to be ready for the season opener. So, those
good.
that is good news.
Yeah, my ears perked up when you said Puka Nakua. Puka Nakua's back. I feel like it's been way too long since he's been on the field since that one practice I showed up to and he was just balling out. And then nothing happens ever since then. I know he got hurt at that Charger scrimmage, but good news for Puka Nakua. Obviously, good for Jonah Jackson. You got to have that offensive line there.
Yep.
So I guess to go back to the offensive line, I guess they're gonna go what? So you have Jonah Jackson, Kevin Dotson, Avila, and then so pretty much all you need is the left tackle, right? Because before they were
Yes.
thinking maybe no Jonah, maybe no Jackson. That's the real emergency plan. So okay, good. If Jonah Jackson is there, all you got to worry about is left tackle. I'm not gonna say it's a small detail; it's a big detail, but at least
Yeah.
you're not doing a bunch of shifting there. So at least your interior is set. Hopefully Havenstein's ready to go. So you worry between Nopum and is McClendon. Uh,
Yeah.
for that. But yes, Jorge, I see the comment. We were just on live. Stick around for House of Horns if you want to, Jorge.
Yeah, there you go. Support the channel here in the network. So, all right, Gilbert, let's get to our 53-man projections here. So, let's start it off with the quarterbacks. We're going to speed through this real quick, but I just want to get your reaction to it. All right? So, we got Matthew Stafford, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Stetson Bennett. Now, I have Jimmy Garoppolo. He misses the first two games, so he does not count towards the 53-man roster. So your
Yeah,
your
that's
two
got to be a
quarterbacks
new
are
rule, by the way, because I it used to
yeah,
be players who are suspended or hurt or on IR, you have to put them on the 53 man roster, and then you have to go through the whole suspension, IR, things like that. So that's good for these rosters to be a little more flexible with guys who are not going to be available for a couple of weeks. So I like that
Yeah.
Jimmy G doesn't count for the roster right now.
Yeah, so just keep tabs on me here in terms of the amount of players that we're going through. I have the extra. I did the count myself, but just keep track of this just in case. All right, for running backs, we have Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, and Ronnie Rivers. Now we found out that Boston Scott was cut. I don't expect Zach Evans to make none of the other running backs to make this team. I think it's a three back system here with the Rams. I think it'll be Kyron Williams, like I said, Blake Corum, and Ronnie Rivers.
I guess I'm not surprised right now, but maybe a couple of weeks ago I would have been surprised with the Boston Scott. I know he's older, maybe some injuries, but Boston Scott that was going to be added for special teams, using him for the new kickoff rule. Maybe Sean McVay is worried about teams taking the touchback at the 30-yard line, and what's the point of having a returner there? And but also I saw Kyron, especially at that Chargers scrimmage, I saw Kyron Williams and Ronnie Rivers fielding a lot of kickoffs there. Where I know Kyron Williams was not big on doing the special teams return, but they're using him. So, and then Blake Corum could also do it too. I shouldn't forget about him. But I think these two guys are gonna be rotated a lot. And when it comes to the kickoff, that's why I think Boston Scott was able to get moved on.
Well, you kind of transitioned me to the special teams and why I don't think that Boston Scott's gonna make it, because they're gonna take, I think, six receivers here.
Mm.
It's gonna be Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, Demarcus Robinson, our guy Jordan Whittington, Tutu Adwell, and the
Cuero,
return guy is,
Texas.
yeah, yes, and the return guy is gonna be Xavier Smith. So I have Xavier
Mm.
Smith making the team. I don't have Tyler Johnson making this team. My biggest reason for that, Gilbert, is because I think that you if you don't do more than like Jordan Winnington makes sense because he's a rookie, but Tyler Johnson needs to do more than just be a receiver. You need to be able to do special teams. If you're just there taking up a spot just to be a receiver as a number 6 or 7 guy, it makes no sense to keep him on the roster. That's why I like Xavier Smith over Tyler Johnson. I've seen some people put 7 guys, 7 receivers. I'm just not gonna do it. It makes no sense for me.
I like it. I like that Xavier Smith is on there, and yes, special team is a big part. We'll give Tutu Atwell another chance. Maybe he makes an impact in the return game. That way, Kyron Williams doesn't have to do it. Don't put Kyron Williams out there. He's your lead back.
Yes.
But yes, Xavier Smith did ball out in the preseason. I'm with it. I have no problems with the 6 guys here, and I can't wait to see what Jordan Whittington does in the regular season.
So we're now moving on to the tight ends, and I only have 3 tight ends here, Gilbert. I have Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, and Hunter Long. I
Okay.
think, yeah, with
Yeah,
your
Higbee's not coming back for a bit.
yes, he's going to be on the pup list or on IR until he's ready to come back, and so
At
that
that
gives you
point,
a
Victor Long would be cut, right, for Higby.
yes. Yes, yeah, and with you running the 11 personnel, you don't need more than 3. You don't need more than 3 tight ends, and then the tight end that I might have thought could make it, they've already cut him, so there's no reason for you to keep more than 3 at this point. So I'm going with 3 here. All right, Gilbert. Now offensive line, and again, I put a little thing here for Alaric Jackson. He's going to be suspended the first 2 games, so I ended up adding Zach Thomas to this
Okay.
team here. So I have Jonah Jackson, Steve Avila, Kevin Dotson, Rob Havenstein, Joe Noteboom, Warren McClendon Jr., Bo Limmer, Logan Bruss, and Zach Thomas because of Alaric Jackson's suspension. What do
That's
you think
9
about
guys,
that?
right? Are those
That's
9?
9. I have 9 offensive linemen.
Yeah, I like the story of Bo Limmer, a rookie, and he could for the emergency plan, he will help out at center. It hasn't gone to total emergency because Jonah Jackson is back, so that's good. Logan Bruss is a nice story, doing well in camp. But yeah, I'm very interested in seeing a Noteboom or McClendon who gets that job. I'm guessing it'll be Noteboom left tackle, but that's you need those 2 guys there. And then Zach Thomas didn't have 2 games to show something. But yes, when Jackson comes back, somebody needs to get cut.
Yeah, and the other reason I went with Zach Thomas is we talked to Adam last week, and he told us that Zach Thomas was one of those guys that had done really well in both training camp and the preseason, and that they really liked him. So I can see them keeping him. And also, in a weird way, it kind of helps the Rams because you don't have to put him through waivers. You can keep him for the first 2 games, and because everybody around the league needs offensive lineman, Gilbert. And if you have one that can actually start a game, then you want to keep him. So you if you try putting him on, passing him through waivers, and then try to sneak him into the practice squad, those guys end up getting plugged. And so I think in a weird way it kind of worked out for the Rams.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I like the projection there.
All right, defensive line here. We got Kobe Turner, Brandon Fisk, Bobby Brown III, Tyler Davis, Laurel Murchison, and Deshaun Johnson. So those are your defensive guys, the defensive tackles. I have what 6 of them going.
6 guys.
6 guys here. I just
Okay.
think you're gonna need that depth now that you don't have Aaron Donald. We've seen some flashes from Tyler Davis. Laurel Murchison has been on this team for a couple years now, and Deshaun Johnson is just a guy that you need there to fortify the run there. So and same thing with Bobby Brown. I think with those guys, I think the majority of the snaps are going to come from Kobe Turner and Brandon Fisk. But if you need some depth here, you got it with some of these guys.
Yeah, Kobe and Braden are definitely going to be the 1-2 punch there. I think Bobby Brown's going to be a good nose tackle to help you out in the run game. So it's a solid 3. If you get Davis to help you out as a rotational guy and to kind of keep developing, the more depth you got in the interior game, that's even better. And like you mentioned, Victor, no Aaron Donald this year, so you need a very strong committee of group there. So those the first 3 I like. Maybe a 4 if Davis does a little more. Obviously, Murchison, we've seen him around, and then Johnson are going to definitely be some depth guys.
All right, moving on to now. This is where I put an asterisk with Ernest Jones. My feeling is, Gilbert, is I don't think this is something you can fix with Ernest Jones. I think they end
Mm.
up trading him, and I think the guy they feel they use is Jacob Homo. I put Jake there, but his real name, he goes by Jake, but they use
Yeah.
Jacob Hummel there. I have Troy Reader for special teams, Christian Roseboom, and then Omar Spites, who we talked about. Now, let's say Ernest Jones comes back and everything's okay. I think you have a really you have. I think Troy Reader is kind of look. He's the guy, odd man out, because he's a special teams guy, which you really want on this team, especially after last season. But it's going to get interesting if Ernest Jones doesn't get traded, because we already talked about it, Gilbert. Like Omar Speeds. I
Well,
keep
see,
messing
I'm
his
getting
name, but
confused because you said Spites right now, and I'm like, I thought you told me it was
yeah,
Speeds,
his
and
name,
I honestly lost track. I need to go back to the Kirk Morrison video.
yeah,
He said it, and that's why I
yeah,
even stalled. I'm like, is it Spites or Speeds? And we got to
yes,
do better with that. Same thing with
I know.
Alaric Jackson. I know we were messing his name up every now and then. Is it Speeds or Spites? I thought you sounded very confident with Spites, but now is it
Yeah,
maybe it's Speeds? Who
yeah,
knows? I mean, Spites or Speeds. There you go.
there we go. But yeah, what do you think about this in terms of what do you think is more important? And does Ernest Jones come back? And then do I need
All
to
right.
take out Troy Reader here?
I'm not gonna lie here. Like, if Ernest Jones is traded, this might be one of the worst linebacker groups in the NFL. Like,
Yes,
let's be real here. Like, it's not
yes,
like, I guess Omar. I'm gonna call him Omar.
yes.
Is a good story, but he's not Ernest Jones, and maybe he develops. I don't know. Maybe they're seeing something that I'm missing here. Maybe it's like a leverage card. Like, hey, we think this Omar guy is better. We're good. Do whatever you want, Ernest Jones. But you need Ernest Jones here. So maybe rhymes with 8 Spates. Oh, hey.
Spates. There we
Omar
go.
Spates. We need to
There we
listen
go.
to a video where Sean McVay's talking about him and just to
Yes.
hear it.
Yeah, we
Omar,
just the more we hear it, the better we get at it. And I'm
yeah.
usually really bad until I hear that name. Like it took me a while, like kind of like Aracumpo. Like it took me a while to kind of figure it out, and I was like, okay, I got it now.
Yeah,
Or like,
Spites. Yeah, Speeds. I don't know. Omar is a good story. He's not Ernest Jones.
yes,
I say they find a way to just have him come in, forget about the trade. Like, remember Cam Akers and the whole how messy it is. At
yeah,
one point, we
sure,
thought he was gonna come back, and then he showed up after a month because they couldn't trade the guy. Uh, I've seen
yeah, you're
actually,
right.
and you know how it is on Google, where like people have storylines and all these blogs say, "Hey, we should trade for that guy. We should trade for that guy." All these blogs I've seen, maybe some people from the Dolphins or Broncos, whatever it is, Broncos Nation, Broncos Country, Dolphins Nation. They all have websites and they all say they should trade for this guy. Yes, because he's a good player. So I get why he's generating headlines, but the Rams really need him. Like, it's not a good
Yes,
linebacker room. Uh, it does concern me that it's a storyline, but I will say Ernest Jones makes the team,
it's back. Yeah.
and yeah, it's back, but definitely will make the team. And one of these guys, Hummel or Reader, will probably be out in the
Yeah, I
situation.
think Troy Reader's the odd man out, honestly, because the reason you would keep him is for special teams, and at this point, you might as well use Omar, and that's it, because he had that big hit, and then he's been really good at linebacker. So the only thing is he hasn't had experience with it, and you don't want to throw an undrafted rookie out there, uh, uh, on the road against Detroit. So I hope they work things
Yeah.
out with Ernest Jones. It's just, you know, this whole thing is unlike the Rams, on both sides with Ernest Jones and the Rams. All right, let's move on over to outside linebackers. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Michael Hoyt, Brendan Jackson, Nick Hampton. This is pretty easy, honestly. Brendan Jackson came back. He looked incredible against the Texans in that first quarter. He got beat on a zone play or an outside play, and then he came back and had a great tackle. So it's good to see him back healthy. He had not participated in the first two games, so he's ready to go. Nick Hampton has been doing really well, and so I just think they're gonna roll with six outside linebackers here. One, two, three, four,
Oh,
five, five.
five,
I was
five.
five outside linebackers. So what do you
Yeah,
think about that?
Hampton, Jackson have made plays, so it's not a surprise here. We know about the first three: Jerry Verse, Byron Young, Michael Hoyt. I guess the only story here is, will Verse be part of the starting lineup, or does Michael Hoyt go back to the bench? Obviously, we know Byron Young is okay, but that should be an interesting scenario between Verse and Hoyt. But all three are fine. But I like this group of five here for the depth at outside.
And then over to safety is one of the biggest groups we have on defense. You have
Mm,
Cam Curl, Cam Kitchens, Quinn Lake, John Johnson the third, Jalen McCullough, and Russ G's. We've seen both Russ G's and Quinn Lake play the star position. Those are the guys that are going to play that. And then you have Cam Curl and Cam Kitchens, who's the third round pick. He's played really well. And then Jalen McCullough. Honestly, you need guys like that on special teams. I think you need to keep him around for special teams.
Yeah, six seems like a lot of safeties to me. So I'm gonna say it will go to five, and there's always one surprise, and I say John Johnson doesn't make the team.
Okay.
You got Cam Crow's gonna play a lot. I think they're high on Kitchens, they're high on Quentin Lake. I don't think they're ready to get up on Russ Yeast. I think they're higher on Quentin Lake, but Yeast finds a way to make plays. And then, like you mentioned, with McCullough, he's a special teams guy. So at that point, it's like, how many guys do you need at safety? So
Yeah.
I will go just for the surprise. John Johnson doesn't make it. He's a veteran who kind of didn't, make an impact last year. He might get a little lost between a prize free agent and Cam Curl and a young Quinton Lake and Kitchens and Yeast.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially if you can use John Johnson in special teams. I mean, he is on a cheap contract, so if I was less need, I'd rather go with the cheaper guy in Jalen McCullough, who can give me some special teams work. All right, Gilbert. Moving over to cornerbacks: Tre'Davious White, Darius Williams, Kobe Durant, Josh Wallace, Charles Woods, and I added Josh Taylor the second at the last second because of what Adam told us that he was someone that they really liked. So
Okay.
with Jerry Jacobs, getting released or with an injury settlement, I just figured, someone like Jason Taylor would be able to make the team now.
So you got six, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
Yes.
So I guess we're over the Trey Tomlinson experiment or
Yes.
him being somebody.
I think he already
uh
got cut.
did he? Okay. I forgot
I
because
think I'll check.
maybe you're right because there was like 8 guys that got cut, but man, yeah, I thought he was gonna be something after the way he played last training camp. He was making plays and just can never find the role on the team. So, uh, yeah, if you, I could look it up too if you want. I think I got an email from this.
I'm
I
trying
don't,
to look at it right now.
I don't have it
Roster cut
handy.
tracks. Okay, here we go. I got. Let's see. I'm looking for it right now. We got the Rams. I had it and I lost it. Where is the NFC West? Give me the NFC West. NFC West. There we go. So you
Oh,
got Dresser win. No, he has not. It was
okay.
Jerry Jacobs and Cameron McCutcheon. So not yet. He still has a chance to make this team. So we'll
My,
see.
my
But
my boy JJ Lapp, the wide receiver, didn't make it.
yeah, he did not make it. So there you go.
But
And
all
then
right,
lastly, our specialists, Josh Carty, Ethan Allen, and the long snapper, Alex Ford.
easy.
That gets us to 53.
Yep.
So what do you think? Are we looking good here for the Rams projection, or there's always a surprise? Is there a surprise guy or a surprise cut, or do you think they bring in help? And if they do, where does that help come from? What position needs
Uh,
help?
I think definitely cornerback, and then yeah, for sure linebacker, especially if you trade Ernest Jones. Maybe you could find a linebacker swap there. Maybe somebody has a linebacker and you could give him Ernest Jones. I don't know, or maybe you could find a decent linebacker and a decent cornerback to give you depth. Maybe they're not as good as players Ernest Jones, but you get more depth at both positions to bolster the defense, something like that. We'll see what happens. Maybe you're right on Ernest Jones. Maybe they have something up their sleeve where it is going to help them out at the end, but it's just tough for them to give up on Ernest Jones. And like going back to Adam Grossbar, check out the interview too. We talked to him last Wednesday night,
Hmm.
and he just kept saying like this defense is a mystery. Like he doesn't even know what to expect. Like it's just there's just too much uncertainty, too much unknown. You got a new defensive coordinator. You got team defense that doesn't have Aaron Donald. So it's you're gonna have to face Jared Goff and Penei Sewell and Amon St. Brown, who were on the cover of SI in that old classic Ford convertible. So that's gonna be a big challenge for the defense there.
Yeah, and we'll see who they end up keeping. Like I said, just because they turn in that 53-man roster uh on Tuesday, it doesn't mean those guys are all set. Like there's always those guys at the end of the roster who think they've made it, and then next thing you know, they end up getting cut, and then that's probably because they brought in someone else, whether they trade for somebody, they pick up somebody off the waivers. That's the tough part for a lot of these guys is you think uh it was a 57
I thought I
Ford.
said Ford. What did I say? Maybe I got it wrong, but yes, 57 Ford.
There you
Thank
go.
you, Detroit. What was the former name?
Yeah, Extreme Shaft.
Extreme Chef, but we know that you're
Yeah,
from Detroit, Don.
yeah, there you go. But
But it
yeah,
was a good cover,
it
by the way.
yeah, good cover. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this roster. I can't wait to see what happens. We'll see how close we came to that, Gilbert, tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time. But I'm ready to start the season. We've done a lot of good shows. We've done a lot of good content here on House of Horns, and I can't wait to get the season started. So the next time we'll be back will be Wednesday, the week of we'll be here to preview Rams Lions for that Sunday night game, and we'll also give you guys our predictions for the season for the Rams, and what we think. Whether they make the playoffs or not, we'll let you guys know in that episode. But can't wait to get started. I mean, it's been what about 4 months of getting ready for this, and now here we are. Tomorrow the 53-man roster comes out, and then now the business of the NFL kind of begins now, Gilbert, and we're 1 week away.
Yeah, not that long of a show this week, but if you're when you see the final roster, not projections, but the final, I don't like to say final roster, initial 53-man roster because the roster
There you go.
changes so much throughout the whole year. Initial
Yep.
sounds better. When you see the initial 53-man roster, check out the show. I'm sure we got a bulk of it right. I'm gonna say that I think we know enough here. So for the analysis, or you come back to the show and we got things wrong, let us know in the comments, and it'll be
Yep.
fun to read them too. Maybe my John Johnson projection is terrible. Maybe Trey Thompson does make the roster here. Maybe Ernest Jones does go through on the roster, and they're all okay. Let us know in the comments. But check out this episode for the breakdown here. And then check out Kurt Morrison interview. We're gonna post that
Yes.
soon, but that's already on Compass on the beat. And again, we talk all NFL on Compass on the beat, and during on Wednesday evening, it's gonna be all Rams, and I can't wait for that. Was it 8 9 days? About 9 days to get to week one of the season. But this was a good episode or two. Say goodbye to some gems and good stories of the preseason and camp, but now we got to get on to the 53-man roster and the regular season.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys that people like I said, like McCullough, like some of those guys that were standouts, you might not see them because it's time for big boy football. Uh, we got Delbert Salgado who says, "Puro cuernos, good show. Looking forward to Brennan Jackson stepping up. Go Rams." So there you go. So he's got him on the roster as well,
There
Gilbert.
you
So
go.
it'll be good. Like I said, check back next Wednesday, our regular time 6:30 we'll be on live, and then we'll preview that the playoff matchup from last year between the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams. Can't wait to kind of get to work on that and do some research and talk about that game because it's one of the best matchups of week 1, Gilbert.
Yes, and we're gonna see Don Corleone on that episode because Detroit Lions versus the Los Angeles Rams. It was a 57 Ford on
Yeah.
that SI cover, and it's gonna be a good showdown. Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. So, Delbert, thank you for being on the show. Don, thank you. Steve, Jorge, AMS, Vive Moy. Sorry, Moy 42. I'll keep trying, and then obviously AMS. That's that's a good episode, good engagement, and I know it's a little late, a little random out of nowhere, but we appreciate you guys being on here.
Yeah, thanks you guys for joining us. But Gilbert, go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, the marathon is over. Compass on the beat, House of Horns back to back. We did it. Hopefully, you enjoyed the shows. If you stayed for both shows, we really appreciate it. But on that note, ya nos vamos. Pues, vámonos.